Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to share with you guys my new daily driver. In this video I wanted to explain why I picked the parts that I did and how I came to those conclusions. To start out, I'll explain what I wanted out of my new daily driver and then move on to what parts I selected to meet those requirements. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and shout out to my Patreon because you guys are awesome. And with that, let's take a look at the criteria I wanted for my new keyboard. So I've been in the keyboard hobby for a little while now, and I've come to understand my own preferences more and more. Before I even looked at parts, I first created a list of things that I wanted my keyboard to have. I found that a good place to start was to look at the keyboard that I was currently using, and then come up with a list of things that I liked and disliked about it. I've been using the Drop Alt for a couple of years now. For its time, it was a pretty great keyboard, but for my current tastes, there are definitely some things I wish it had. Let's start by taking a look at what I like from this keyboard. Personally, I think that 65% is the best keyboard size because I enjoy having the extra desk space while still keeping the arrow keys. Another feature of the Alt that I really like is that it's hot swappable. As you guys may know, I've done a few Switch reviews on my channel, and having a good hot swap keyboard is definitely a must going into the future. One of my complaints that I wanted to be fixed in my next keyboard is that the Alt only accepts 3-pin switches, and that makes it impossible to test any switch that uses a 5-pin connection without clipping them. And lastly, one of the things I really wanted to change from the Alt is that I wanted my next keyboard to be wireless. Whenever I'm building a keyboard or looping switches, I like to completely clear off my desk so I can work with all the space. So to recap, the main things I was looking for in my next keyboard were that it had to be a 65% layout, hot swappable and accepts 5-pin switches, and it has some wireless capabilities. As for other minor details, I prefer tactile switches, and specifically a D-shaped tactile switch. And now we can move on to my parts list that met all these requirements. And of course, I'll leave the links to all the parts in the description. For the case, I picked up a KBD67 Lite. I was able to buy this on Black Friday when KBD fans restocked in a whole bunch of color options. Specifically, this is the wireless version in deep blue. For colors, I typically go with black or white because it's really easy to keep a cohesive aesthetic. But this time I wanted to try something new, and I took a risk getting the blue one. Some things to keep in mind if you decide on getting this keyboard is that it isn't VIA compatible and it doesn't come with a battery. It does have its own keyboard configurator that is pretty easy to use, so not being VIA compatible isn't that big of a deal. And as for the battery, all I did was order one from China and made sure that it was compatible. KBD Fans does list a recommended battery on their website, but if you can't find that specific battery, you can just look for one online, but make sure that it meets the correct specifications. For switches, I bought some Novel Keys Blueberries. Originally, I was considering the U4T Bobas because I really enjoyed them when I got the chance to try them out in a previous video. The reason I decided to go with Blueberry switches instead is that they have a lot of similarities to the Boba switches and that they were more readily in stock. In terms of modding, I kept it really simple. First, I opened up all the switches and bag lubed the springs with Krytox 105. As for other lube, I decided to only lube the housing walls with Krytox 205 G0. I decided not to lube the stem because I wanted the switch to preserve its tactility. Applying more lube in this might change the tactile feel of the switch, which I definitely don't want to happen. I've definitely over-lubed tactile switches in the past, and this is pretty much the only way to ensure that a switch preserves its tactility while still having some added smoothness with the lube. And as a bonus, it's just faster to lube switches like this. And once the lube is applied, the last step is to just reassemble the switch. And with that, this is the completed board. Now that I've had the opportunity to use it for a couple of weeks now, I'll go over what I liked about using it and what things I think still need improvement. And lastly, I'll end the video by showing you guys the sound test. Okay, first off, the feel. I really like the feeling of these Blueberry switches. They really gave me that super tactile feeling that I was after. Also, having the option to use this keyboard wirelessly really comes in handy. Again, whenever I clear my desk and I can't have my keyboard on it anymore, it's really useful still being able to use it when it's not plugged in. As for the looks of this keyboard, I already knew I was taking a risk getting the blue one instead of a typical black or white one. I definitely don't regret getting this color, and I still think it's a nice keyboard to add to my collection. One thing I found I would change about this is that this keyboard doesn't have any lighting on it besides the caps lock indicator. Originally, I didn't think that no lighting would be a problem, but it actually becomes an issue when using it wirelessly. Simply put, it's hard to tell when the keyboard's actually on when it's not plugged in. It doesn't have an on or off switch, and it relies on going into a sleep mode to turn off. And without any lighting, you don't really know when it's sleeping and when it's active. Having some backlights on this, or at least one LED indicator at the top somewhere, would definitely help when using this keyboard. And also, because the case is transparent, it does seem kind of a waste to not have some underglow lighting on it. And you guys have waited long enough. Without further ado, let's take a listen to the sound test. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments if you think this keyboard sounds thocky or not. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one.